My boyfriend accidentally confessed to cheating during a group chat, so I walked out mid-conversation, broke up with him, and kicked him out of my life. I'm 28, female. I had been dating my boyfriend for about 3 years, and for a while I thought things were going great. At least, that's what I thought until an innocent group chat revealed just how much I didn't know about him. We were part of a friend group that had been meeting regularly for years. Game nights, bar outings, movie marathons, the works. Our Friday night ritual involved takeout and board games at someone's apartment, and we'd grown close over shared inside jokes and memories. He'd seamlessly integrated into my social circle when we started dating, charming everyone with his wit and easygoing nature. I thought I'd hit the relationship jackpot, someone who got along with my friends and seemed completely devoted to me. One day, someone started a group chat for an upcoming weekend trip to a lakeside cabin we'd rented. We were planning logistics, who's driving, who's bringing food, that sort of thing. I was excited about the mini vacation, already picturing cozy evenings by the fire pit and lazy mornings with coffee on the deck. It was all lighthearted banter until someone made a joke about secrets coming out during the trip, referencing some old scandal involving one of our friends who'd once gotten so drunk they'd admitted to having a crush on their professor. I didn't think much of it, but my boyfriend chimed in with a cryptic, "Well, secrets have a way of revealing themselves at the worst times. Trust me, I know." The chat went silent for a moment. One of our more nosy friends jokingly pressed him, "Oh, what did you do?" "Spill." He responded with laughing emojis and said, "Let's just say I've done some things I'm not proud of, haha." That's when my gut started twisting. The hair on the back of my neck stood up, and a cold feeling settled in my stomach. Normally, he wouldn't shy away from bragging about his wild stories, like the time he jumped off a cliff into a quarry or crashed a wedding reception, but something about his tone seemed off. His words carried a weight that his usual playful banter didn't. I didn't say anything in the group, but I leaned over to him. We were sitting on the couch together with our legs intertwined, his arm casually draped around my shoulder as we both scrolled through our phones, and asked, "What's that supposed to mean?" He glanced at me, his expression instantly guarded, a flash of something like panic crossing his face before he composed himself. "It's nothing, just a joke," but it didn't feel like a joke. Not to me, and it wasn't over. Later that evening, as I was preparing dinner, chopping vegetables for a stir-fry while he lounged on the couch scrolling through social media, someone else in the group pressed him further in the chat, asking for details about his not proud of comment. To my growing unease, he responded, "It's really not a big deal. Everyone makes mistakes, right? Besides, it's not like she knows." He added a winking emoji. My knife stilled mid-chop. My heart sank. She could have meant anyone, but the implication was clear enough that I felt like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water over my head. The bell pepper forgotten on the cutting board, I stared at my phone, rereading his message, while the chat erupted with more questions. "OMG spill and wait, are we talking about cheating?" flooded in. That's when he sent the message that changed everything. "Fine, I hooked up with someone at that music festival last year, but it was a one-time thing and I was drunk. It doesn't even matter now." The group chat exploded. "What? No way. Does she know?" were just a few of the reactions. I felt frozen, my mind racing. That festival was one we had attended together, 3 days of music, camping, and what I thought were shared memories that would last a lifetime. I had left early on the last night, because I had an early work meeting the next day, but he'd stayed behind with friends. He had even insisted I go, saying, "You don't have to worry about me. I'll catch a ride back." I remembered kissing him goodbye, his arms wrapped around me as he promised to text me when he got home safely. I trusted him completely. Now it was all unraveling. Still sitting next to him, I put my phone down and looked at him. He was staring at his own screen, his face pale, thumbs hovering over the keyboard as if trying to figure out how to backpedal. "Care to explain that?" I asked, keeping my voice as steady as I could, though I could feel it threatening to crack. He looked up, his eyes wide, like a deer caught in headlights. "It's not what it sounds like." I stood up, my body humming with adrenaline. "Then what exactly is it?" "Because it sounds like you cheated on me." The group chat notifications kept pinging as people debated whether he was joking or serious. The sound felt like tiny daggers in my ears. He reached for my arm, his voice desperate. "It was stupid, okay? I was drunk. I barely even remember it. It didn't mean anything." His grip tightened, as if physically holding on to me would prevent me from leaving. "You didn't think it was worth telling me? Instead, I get to find out in front of all our friends." My voice was rising, and I didn't care anymore. The neighbors could hear. The whole building could hear. It wouldn't change what had happened. His tone shifted, becoming defensive. "I didn't tell you because I knew you'd overreact like this. It was a mistake, and I didn't want to ruin what we have." "What we have?" I repeated, yanking my arm away from him. "You mean the relationship where I trust you completely, and you keep secrets like this?" I thought of all the times I'd confided in him, shared my deepest insecurities, my dreams, my fears, all while he carried this betrayal. He stood up too, crossing his arms. I said it didn't mean anything. Why are you blowing this out of proportion? His face flushed with anger now, as if somehow I was the one who'd done something wrong. I couldn't believe his audacity. Blowing it out of proportion? He cheated on me, lied about it, and then casually let it slip in a group chat like it was some harmless anecdote. Every moment we'd shared since that festival suddenly felt tainted, like looking at a beautiful painting only to realize it was a forgery. I didn't say another word. I grabbed my keys, walked out of the apartment, and left him standing there, calling after me. I drove aimlessly for a while, replaying the conversation in my head. His excuses, his defensiveness, it all felt like a slap in the face. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. He hadn't just cheated, he'd mocked my trust, treating it like an inconvenience rather than the foundation of our relationship. I ended up at a 24-hour diner, nursing a cup of coffee that grew cold as I scrolled through old photos on my phone. Pictures of us at that festival, his arm around my waist, both of us smiling into the camera with glitter on our faces and flower crowns on our heads. I wondered if he'd already met her by then, if he'd already been planning his betrayal while I smiled obliviously beside him. I deleted the photos one by one, watching our memories disappear with each tap of my finger. By the time I returned to the apartment later that night, I had made my decision. He was sitting on the couch, his eyes red from crying, an empty beer bottle on the coffee table. "You just left," he said, his voice trembling. "I needed time to think," I replied curtly. "And now I've thought about it." His expression brightened slightly, as if he thought I might forgive him. "I'm so sorry. I know I screwed up, but we can work through this." He reached for my hand, but I stepped back, maintaining the distance between us. "No," I said firmly. "We can't. I'm done." The words felt heavy yet liberating, like putting down a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying. He froze, blinking rapidly. "What? You're just going to throw everything away over one mistake?" His tone shifted from apologetic to incredulous, as if my decision was the unreasonable one. "One mistake," I scoffed. "It's not just the cheating. It's the lies. The fact that you never planned to tell me. The way you casually joked about it like it was nothing. You've disrespected me in every possible way." I looked around the apartment, at the photos of us on the wall, the blanket we'd bought together on our first vacation, the plant he'd given me for our anniversary, and everything felt like it belonged to a life I no longer recognized. Tears streamed down his face, but I felt no sympathy. The man I thought I knew would never have betrayed me like this. He tried to plead, shifting blame onto me. "You've been distant lately. I felt like you didn't care, and that night, I was vulnerable." His words dripped with manipulation, each one revealing more about his true character than he realized. I shook my head. "Don't you dare try to make this my fault. You had plenty of chances to tell me the truth, and instead, you decided to keep it a secret. You don't get to rewrite history now." I thought about all the times he'd looked me in the eye after that festival, telling me he loved me, making plans for our future, all while keeping this secret. His demeanor changed again, turning cold. "Fine, if you want to end things, then go ahead. But don't act like you're perfect. You've had your flaws too?" His eyes narrowed, as if searching for any insecurity he could exploit. "Maybe I'm not perfect," I said, grabbing a box from the closet, the cardboard scraping against the wood floor. "But I never cheated on you. Start packing." I tossed the box at his feet, where it landed with a hollow thud. He stared at me, stunned. "You're kicking me out?" His voice cracked, the reality of the situation finally sinking in. "Yes," I said bluntly. "This is my apartment. You've been living here rent-free while I've paid for everything. You can stay with one of your friends or go wherever you want, but you're not staying here." I remembered all the times I'd covered his portion of the bills because he was between jobs or short this month, and the resentment burned even hotter. He tried every tactic to change my mind, crying, yelling, even threatening to tell his friends I was being unreasonable. "They'll never believe you," he snarled, his face contorted with anger. "They'll think you're crazy for reacting this way." But I didn't budge. I watched silently as he packed his clothes, his gaming console, his collection of vinyl records, all the things that had gradually taken over my space. By the next morning, he was gone, leaving behind only a few boxes of things he couldn't carry, and the lingering scent of his cologne that I would later try to wash away with scented candles and open windows. In the days that followed, the group chat was a mess. Some of my friends sided with me, expressing their shock and support while others tried to stay neutral, claiming it wasn't their place to judge. One person, however, defended him. "Everyone makes mistakes. Don't you think you're being too harsh?" The message came from a friend who'd always seemed to admire him a little too much. I shut that down immediately. Cheating isn't a mistake, it's a choice. He chose to betray me, and now he's facing the consequences. I typed the words with shaking fingers, angry tears blurring my vision. Word spread quickly, and soon mutual friends were reaching out, asking for details. I kept it simple. He cheated, I found out, and I ended it. That's all there is to say. I didn't want to be the subject of gossip, didn't want my pain to become entertainment for others. Meanwhile, he tried to paint himself as the victim. He told people I was overreacting and that I had kicked him out with nowhere to go. One of my closer friends called me, saying, "He's telling everyone you left him homeless." She sounded concerned, as if I might be the villain in this story. I laughed bitterly. Homeless? He has family, friends, and plenty of other places to stay. He's just mad he can't manipulate me anymore. I remembered how quickly he'd packed his things, how he already had a place to go despite his claims of having nowhere. I focused on moving forward. I changed the locks on my apartment, the new keys feeling symbolic of my fresh start. I blocked his number and removed him from every social media account I had. I purged my space of his presence, donating clothes he'd left behind, rearranging furniture, and repainting the bedroom in a color I'd always wanted but he vetoed. I reclaimed every inch of my life. He tried to contact me through mutual friends, but I made it clear I wanted no further communication. "Tell him it's over, and there's nothing left to discuss," I said firmly, refusing to be drawn back into his orbit. The final straw came when he showed up at my workplace demanding to talk. I was in the middle of a client meeting when the receptionist called, saying he was causing a scene in the lobby. My coworkers watched with concerned expressions as I excused myself, my professional demeanor momentarily shaken. Security escorted him out, his shouted accusations echoing through the marble lobby, and I filed a formal complaint to ensure he couldn't come back. That night, I cried for the first time since finding out, not for the relationship I'd lost, but for the public humiliation he'd subjected me to. Months later, I heard he'd moved in with one of his friends, ironically, the same friend who'd pressed him in the group chat that fateful day. I felt a sense of closure knowing I had completely cut him out of my life. The pain had dulled, replaced by a quiet certainty that I'd made the right choice. Looking back, I realized that his cheating was just the tip of the iceberg. His entitled behavior, his lack of accountability, and his willingness to manipulate others all pointed to a deeper issue. The signs had been there all along: the borrowing of money he never repaid, the small lies about where he'd been or who he'd been with, the way he'd subtly undermined my confidence. Ending things wasn't just the right decision. It was the only decision. Now I'm focusing on myself and building a future free of his drama. I've reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during our relationship, taken up hobbies he dismissed as boring, and even started dating again, cautiously, but with hope. If there's one lesson I've learned, it's this: trust is everything. And once it's broken, there's no going back. No matter how much someone cries, pleads, or tries to shift the blame, some betrayals leave wounds too deep to heal. And that's okay. Sometimes walking away isn't giving up, it's choosing yourself. That's all for today. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment your advice for the OP.